Hey everyone, welcome to another $1,000 scrap search. I've got my $1,000 in singles here and I'm about to show you what I found. But before I do, let's talk about this week's tip. Now, there are a lot of notes out there that people say are errors. And to me, I struggle because I don't necessarily agree with what they call an error. A lot of people think about coins and how hard it is to screw up a coin. Any slight miscalculation on a coin and now you get doubling, and now you get a repunched mint mark or something just ridiculously small that has almost infinite value when you consider how small the screw up is. Paper money isn't like that. Paper money is very sloppy when you print. It just is. You've got 3 different printing processes, not to mention a cutting process. With a coin, they put it in, stamp it, take it out. Done. One shot to screw anything up. And for the most part, you're not going to find very many mistakes at all on coins. With paper money, however, well, like I said, it's a very sloppy process. And I'm going to dive into one of the more common errors that people see today. And, well, we'll take it from there once I get to it. But I think what I show today should answer everybody's question on this particular error. All right, let's slide these out of the way and take a look at what I found this week. Found an I Love You Mikey 1113. This has been circulating for 10 years with this note on it, and it's been circulating for 10 years prior to that note being written on it. Congratulations, Mikey. I don't know what else to say. I saw that and I'm like, all right, we'll pull this note. Here's a high number, 9599. You have to remember, when they print notes, they only go up to 9600000. So the highest number you're going to find would be, well, 95999999. You may find that 96 million, but good luck with that. The opposite of this would be if it was 0000, and then this would be 7,000 something. So that's how this would correspond to a low number. So not ridiculously low, or not ridiculously high, I should say. You want to see one more 9 to consider it a truly high number. But this is as close as I've gotten in a while, so I pulled that one. Got a birthday note, 1963, October 18th. Here's trinary, 1s, 9s, and 0s. And every time I look at that, I think it's something, but it's not. 1099, 1019. So, nope, not a repeater, not a radar. Just a close call, so we're just calling it a trinary. Another trinary, 0s, 4s, and 9s on this one. This one is 2s, 5s, and 8s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 5s on there. Wow, how about that? 5s, 7s, and 9s. This one is 2s. No, this one's quads. Quad 3s on it. Pretty rough shape. Quad 1s. And quad 8s. And some stars. 2017 A star note. Always checking to see if they're filled. I do all my stars all at once just to see if there are any rares. It's just so much easier. You can do them individually. But it takes about 30 seconds to type each one. I tend to go through about 200 of them in about 5 minutes, doing it the way that I do it. That's, of course, at mycurrencycollection.com. You can put the notes in individually, or you can just look up the chart. I tend to look up the chart. 2017 star note. Another 2017, 2013 star. 2013 B, one of the duplicate notes. They're still out there. You can still find them. Then some older notes. This one's a 2003A. Pretty rough shape, so it's probably going to go away. Same with this 2003A. 2003A. 2001. These you don't see a whole lot of, so I'm glad I saved a couple of these, because these are getting tougher to find. I mean, 2001, and then they came out again in 2003, so not a whole lot of time for those to be out there. 1999. 1995, not a web note. Rough shape on this one as well. 1995. And the oldest note is also a 1995, but this one has the Y digit. People always ask how many notes get printed. Well, they start with A, then they print 100 million notes, then they change this from A to B. Then they print another 100 million and go to C, another 100 million, D, and so on down the line. Here they made it all the way to Y. Never hit Z yet, at least not in the Federal Reserve note, but they have hit it on the silver certificates. Granted, that was a different numbering system because they didn't have a Federal Reserve to go in the front there. But that's what I found this week. Okay, so what was I talking about before? Let me show you what I was talking about. This is supposedly an insufficient inking error. Now, when you look at this, you're going to see that the note itself is very light in this area, and yet the third printing, the seals and the serial numbers, are very dark. And people see these and they call these insufficient inking errors. They feel that during the printing process, the black ink must have been running out, so it didn't get inked very well. And then, of course, when they did the third printing comes out just fine. Well, see, that's where it gets kind of interesting. What you really want to do is you want to check out the note and the basic condition of it. Now, this note, if you look at the back, you can see the back is worn away pretty well, which would tell you that the front should also be worn away pretty well, as it is. But why are the seals and the numbers so dark? Well, it's not from an insufficient inking error, I'll tell you that much. What it's from is the different kind of print that they use, okay? When they print the note, they print the back first. And they do what's called intaglio printing, which means they have a metal plate that they carve into, okay? They put all kinds of grooves in the metal plate. They put ink all over that plate and then wipe it away. So now the only ink on the plate is the ink that's in the grooves. They then put the paper in, and that gets pressed. And by pressing it, what you're actually doing is you're pressing the paper into those grooves to get the ink on the page. And that causes raised areas, okay? So they do this side first. And when they go to do this side, they do it the same way with everything that's light on here. All of that would be engraved in a plate. And once again, this will be put in and they will press that plate down against a hard surface, okay? Which means the paper is forced into those grooves, causing this to feel raised. Now at this point, anything that felt raised on the back is being flattened down by the back plate, okay? So the back of the note is no longer as raised as it was, and you'll notice that you'll feel that on a newer note. You can feel the ink on a newer note, but it's much more dramatic on the front. Okay, so now you've got raised ink on the front, raised ink on the back. So at this point, if the ink is raised and the note has any wear, the first thing that's going to wear is the raised ink, correct? Yes. All right. But what about that third print? Well, the third print, they do not engrave a plate. They actually stamp this into the note, which means all of the portion of this note that you see that is light was raised, and all of the portion that you currently see has been pushed in. All right, let me show you exactly what I'm talking about. All right, I got me a whiteboard here. We're gonna see how well my artistic drawing is. These are brand new markers, by the way. We're gonna do an extreme close-up on a piece of paper, looking at the width, okay? So this is the width of the paper. Now, the paper itself, okay, actually has all kinds of fibers that are sticking up. And I'm going to over-exaggerate these fibers up on top here like this, because it's not smooth. It's actually rough, okay? It's paper. Well, I say paper. It's not paper. It's cloth. It's a cotton linen blend, okay? So you've got all these little portions here. All right. Now, what's going to happen is they're going to do the back plate. I should switch this to green because green is the back plate. The back plate is going to be down here, and it's going to have all kinds of little grooves in it. And these little grooves are going to be filled with ink. Okay? So by putting a bunch of ink into these grooves, this will then get pressed. A flat plate will be here, flat plate, and then a plate with the grooves. And this all gets squished together. And what will happen is this bottom plate will end up leveling off all of this like so, leaving the green right here, and right here. So you'd be able to feel that. Then they reverse it. Then they do the other side. They do the face of the bill. And when they do the face of the bill, now they're putting a flat back here, and they are putting the grooves here. And these grooves get filled with ink. So now when they do the second printing, the back plate, which is flat, pushes all of this up, making the whole back plate inked but fairly flat. You can just barely feel some of it. And the front plate, when it comes down, all of these little fibers here go in there and take up the ink, and you end up with the grooves like that. Okay, so now you've got essentially this part sticking up, this part sticking up, and this part sticking up, and these parts sticking up just a little bit, not quite as dramatic, just barely. Okay, because these were pressed twice. The first time they had the big bump, and then when they got pressed again, they got flattened out. Then we have the third printing. The third printing doesn't use a plate. It uses a stamp. So let's get this part out of here again. And with the stamp for the serial number, you have a plate and the number itself here. Okay, so when this comes down, it now embeds itself into the paper. So here is the ink where George Washington is on a bill. Just put this up here. Here's George, and that ink is up above the paper. And the ink for the serial number is into the paper. So now let's fast forward some wear and tear. Found my eraser. If we fast forward some wear and tear, this is how I fast forwarded wear and tear. Here is a regular note. You can see how clear all the writing is right here. And what I did is I took sandpaper to it. And look at this side. See how this is all worn away? But yet the 4, which was also being worn away, still looks just fine, because this part was sticking up and the 4 is embedded, just like here. This part is worn away because it's above the paper, and this part, the 4 in this instance, is still there because it's below the paper. So I could completely wear this away to almost nothing, and you will just barely see that second print, but you'll see all of the number. That's why when these bills start to wear, this part looks completely destroyed, and yet these are still just fine. Now, of course, using sandpaper, that's going to be much more corrosive than just regular wear and tear, but I wanted to expedite how the note looks. And when you compare this note to this side, you can certainly see a difference. And when you look at this side, you can see the similarity. This is where, and it didn't do anything there. This is where, and it didn't do anything there. That's why you see so many notes like this, because the wear and tear affects the ink on the uppermost surface of the note, which is all of George and the border, and it doesn't get to the part that's embedded in the paper like this. All right, guys. If you learned anything new, go ahead and hit that like button. If you like what you see and you want to see more, please subscribe. Love reading all your comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next week.